Hey, how's it going, everyone? Just back in with another live stream. Just a quiet day for me today. I'm not golfing, so just did a poll on my community page, and got some a good suggestion from Creation Bear. Shout out to Creation Bear, and I thought I would make it into a live stream. Got a few hours left on this particular allotment, of hours. And so, thought that this would be a good lesson, and it's kind of good for me as well, just to revisit, you know, um, things that I've taught, and just bring them back to the forefront of my mind. So, in many ways, they're good for me. So, that's what I thought I would do here, and then discuss a conversation that I had yesterday with a group of people, related to the end times, which I thought was interesting. But I'm just looking at my poll results. The vote that I took on my community page, how these hours should be allocated, and I got a varying response. So I asked, I have a couple more streams left. What do people want to see? So 24 people voted. So 29% don't stream anymore. We are tired of you. Okay, so I just kind of put these up there because I have an expectation of, what people are gonna say. So, oh, Mason B, what's up, man? Good to see you, dude. Hope everything's going well for you. Search a keyword and reading the verses related to that word. Me personally, that's the ones that I like the most, that I find the most fun, because it's I've read those verses before at some point, but it's a bit of like an unknown in that regard for me, because I'm just doing it like, off the top of my head. So just from my vantage point, those are the ones that I like the most. Mark of the Beast related got 25%. Yeah, that's sort of what I expected. Calling people retarded, 25%, and golf was 4%. So I voted for golf. So, that's my own vote. So I didn't expect that one to get many hits. So in the lead is don't stream anymore. We are tired of you. Okay. And so, in the spirit of me not caring what people say, I will stream. Okay. So I will not listen to them. But, Creation Bear left a message that was, inspired me to, revisit some of the videos that I've done in the past. And so, he's like, because I view the book of Revelation, I think everybody does, as like tiles, and it's like a quilt. And then, it's all of God's fabric, all of his DNA, but they need to be put into like an order, and then it'll make sense, and then we have an expectation of what to look for, and get excited about it, and that kind of thing. The most important thing, because once you understand it, then you can like wait for it, and look for it. And, we clearly see that happening right now. And so I'll just read, I'm not going to read the entire book of Revelation, of course, but I would recommend, anybody out there to do that. But I'm just going to go chapter by chapter. And then I put the link below of the video where I've summarized, the book of Revelation from a high level. It's only a 15-minute video. And it just shows that the book itself has structure. And it encodes the 6 days of creation and the 1 day of rest in the 22 chapters. So it's 15 minutes and 40 seconds long, that video. I'd highly recommend people watch it, if they don't have the appetite to watch the full hour and a half long one that I made. So, I put that link below. It's called The Book of Revelation, Chapters Placed in Sequential Order. And so that was kind of an exciting time for me, because that's when the mystery was being revealed, I believe, to me personally, from God, if it comes true. And, those were the early days, those were the pretty much, let me see if it shows the date that this was posted, but, it's, it would be very near January 1st, 2020. Okay. And so that's when I started really sort of doing, really sort of deep diving, into it. So, it's for some reason YouTube has removed the dates on the videos. I'm not sure why, but that's strange. And so anyway, just know that video was created, shortly after January 1st, 2020, when I believe that I was sort of told the way those tiles are supposed to be understood. And so one thing that anybody can do is just, or you have to do to understand Revelation, is each chapter, you have to decide whether that's been in the past, that's now, or it's in the future. And so some could, bleed between happening now and in the future, like the mark of the beast, but, or some could take you through the whole span, of it. But you have to decide, has this been fulfilled fully, partially, or in the future? So that's what I'll do here, just to quickly kind of go over each chapter, and then just kind of from a high level explain, that this hasn't happened yet and what its significance is and that kind of thing. And then, I refer to that video below where you'll see that the book of Revelation is in 6 chapters of judgments, and then things happening, related to the earth, and then 1 day of rest, which is like, the Revelation 7, 14, and 21. It goes through the sequence and summarizes it. Okay. It's like they're summary chapters. 7, 14, and 21 are not like a seal being loosed or judgment and that kind of thing. It just goes over the sequence again and then summarizes it. So it's like God sort of like taking a step back and then like, this is what he's laboring for. That's why he's doing it. And then it intensifies and up to the kingdom, in the last chapter. So that's the sequence. That's the structure of the book of Revelation. Okay. And that structure alone I find fascinating because, and then I also have another video, which I'll link below, where if you go through the 7 days of creation, it matches the 7 plagues perfectly. So let me actually add that link to the description box. So, I would highly recommend people look at that, just because for me, again, like I just find it's kind of like a mathy sort of person. I find that structure, interesting, to understand and appreciate, and then, bring out, as one of the many, many affirmations that the book was not constructed randomly, at all. It's done in a way that appears confusing to people, but, it certainly is not, once you understand it, and put the tiles in its place. So I just got to quickly, just so I don't forget later, I'm just going to add this video to that, to the description box. And then, it's worth your time. Again, I think people that come by my channel, like the few people that I actually care about, you're not learning anything new here, but, for maybe the new people who are like newer to Revelation, especially seeing it going on right now, these 2 videos are a good sort of way to get comfortable that, you're reading a book that was constructed and prophesied by the same God of the Old Testament. So if you're a flat earther who came to the Bible for the first time or revisiting it because of the flat earth like me, then you can have comfort that the quote flat earth God in the book of Genesis is the same God in book of Revelation. And so just as confident as we are as the God made that earth, we are just as confident that he's going to do what he said in Revelation. So those are those 2 links, that are now in the description box below. So, check those out. And, that's the deal with that. So those links are there now. And so I'll just pull up Revelation and just go kind of at a high level. Again, I don't have anything prepared. I don't think I'm going to say anything new here. I think pretty much I say the same things kind of over and over again, including that people are retarded. So I say that a lot too. So I don't think there's going to be anything new, but it's kind of a good exercise for me as well. I wanted to mention the conversation I had with, so I got paired up with another, Indian guy about a month or so ago. Nice guy, good golfer too. And when I went to check in for my tea time, they're like, "Oh, which Patel are you?" And I'm like, "Wait a minute, what do you mean? There's like another Patel in my group?" And then so I was like, "Oh, I got paired up with another Patel." I just assumed it was some older guy. And then it was a younger guy, and he's good. So I enjoy playing with. Not that I don't enjoy playing with people who are not as good, but like he can play. And he's good at things that I'm not good at. like his driver, and his putting and short games, excellent. So, we decided to play again, and he invited me to a golf event, like a little while ago, and it was like just a friendly match between like 10 Indian guys against 10 other Indian guys, and they had a room for me. So, and it was at the course that I played at for many, many years. So I joined, and then it was fun. I won the match, but we lost the whole event by a lot. So, and it was kind of funny. At the end of the event, I was like, "Hey, can I hold the trophy just to see what it's like?" Because I'm like a bit of like a competitive person. And they're like, "No, you can't even hold it." And so like I kind of left a bad taste in my mouth. It was obviously all fun and games and joking, but I was like, "Oh man, they won't even let me hold the trophy." So then they invited me to another event that's coming up in 2 weeks. And so this is a bigger event. It's a 2-day event and it's more people. And so I had a practice round yesterday with that group of Indian guys. They're funny. Like they're they keep it real. And the topic came up about what's going on in the Ukraine on the TV at the bar that we were at, the restaurant. And I didn't bring this conversation up because I know that it's not going to end well if I bring it up. So somebody else brought it up. And then, I just kind of like did what I could, to state my opinion of how it's not good and that kind of thing. But, they were talking about how scary it is, like just how a person or a nation or whatever has the ability to destroy another one, and then they're aware of that. And then they were even going into like how limited our defense systems are for stuff like that. It was like water cooler conversation about how we could be nuked to oblivion and where we should go in the US if there was going to be nuclear warfare. And then one guy was like, "Oh, we should go to like North Dakota." And he's like, no, that's actually where our nukes are. And like people have all these like, now like everybody's basically a conspiracy theorist. And that just made me smile because like they were like, they know, that this is bad, and could get bad very quickly. And so now I'm like, I don't think everybody's as ignorant as I thought they were, and so, and again, I'm not saying anything negative to these guys. Like they knew, how bad this could get really quick. And so it was eye-opening for me that like, okay, people know, like somebody could literally push a button, and we know the people that come by here, it's God, literally push a button, just blow this country up to smithereens. And the guys like we've never had a situation like this where, they talked about wars in the past and invasions and that kind of thing, but they've never had the imminent fear for us now of like being retaliated on a big level. And so that's like humbling, that's what they were saying, and I was like, wow, like that's cool, that they know that, again, that's at least possible. And then the Bible states that that's exactly what's going to happen specifically. Okay. And quickly. Strong is the Lord God that judges her. Okay. And so again, I didn't go into that. Okay. Like I just kind of kept my peace. I'm not going into like end times and stuff like that. Not while we're sitting there, having a beer and eating dinner. No, hell no. Okay. And then like they'll be like, why are you here? Kind of thing. Like they would never want to speak to me again. And I understand that, because it's realized from that conversation, it's not morbid to know about that, which they know about that possibility, but I actually want that to happen, and that's where you cross the line, and then we want that to happen. Me and the few people that come by here who are Bible literalists. Okay. We take the Bible literally in many, many places. And then if you don't, then you can't take the kingdom literally. And so that's the reward potentially, for people who do that. And so, I just played neutral, and I just said, it is scary, and then things don't look good. And one of the guys literally said it would be the end of the world. And that just like in my mind, I was like, my jaw dropped. And he's right. He's absolutely right. You wouldn't even have to nuke all of America to have the end of the world. You could just like have a couple things happen, and then we'll just be like, okay, that's over now. No, America would not bounce back if like even a couple of missiles hit from wherever, much less the whole place, getting burned or whatever. So that's not anything you can bounce back from, needless to say. So that was in a strange way comforting that not all Americans are totally oblivious to what's going on. Okay. And for the few people that come by here, you have to want that. That has to be a quote unquote desire of your heart to see a place called Mystery Babylon burn with fire. And so that's not for very many people. That's why a majority of people that come around my channel, I'm aware that you're just acting, okay, and masquerading around as a truther because you don't genuinely want that, okay? I do, okay, because I know what Mystery Babylon is, and I know the judgment that it's prophesied to get, and I want that, or else the God of the Bible is a liar, and he's just pretending. He's the actor, okay? He's pretending and saying that he's going to do things, faking it, okay? And he went back on his word, to judge the great whore, and then he'd be a liar. And so he would just be like us, able to be a liar, able to go back on your word, able to take things back, be double-minded. The Bible says a double-minded man is unstable in all his ways. If we have a God who's double-minded, then he's double-minded. He's like us then, okay? And so that's why we have to want that, okay? And that's not for very many people at all, okay? You have to be a certain type of person. You have to understand how angry that God is in order to want that genuinely, okay? And to want it to happen soon, okay? And so that's a very, very important thing. And so don't worry if you're in a conversation like that and you just play neutral, okay? You just yeah, okay, and then you move on, okay? And so it's not good news, for a majority of Americans / Babylonians. One thing I wanted to mention about this mask mandate being lifted. Again, I don't know if this is true, but I wouldn't be surprised that if I'll put the link if anybody wants to join. This is just an open panel. There's no like lesson per se, or if anybody has questions, genuine ones, you can put them in the chat. I wouldn't be surprised if they're lifting this mandate now, because now like air travel is kind of happening again, and then leading up to the sores in Revelation 16 too. So that wouldn't surprise me, with what's going on, because those sores in Revelation 16 too are going to be worldwide. And so they could potentially be like, oh, look, we lifted the restrictions, and then now all of a sudden, look at all these things happening. And so their quote unquote virtue signaling will be, validated by the fact that you maybe have like another outbreak. And so again, don't take that to the bank, but I wouldn't be surprised, because we saw that ruling, I think happened earlier today, where, planes and public transit and all that, like the federal courts, said it, it's not mandatory. You got to go with what the CDC says. So you never know if they lift it, people start relaxing, and then all that. And then all of a sudden, like, poof, you get like sores, okay, in Revelation 16 too, which will begin, after Christ returns. Okay. So I wouldn't be surprised, that could very well be what's happening. So there is a strange sense of obviously death and evil, but there's also a weird sense of like, oh, okay, let's relax on this, and let's, go forward and, just let people, not have to wear one kind of thing. So, but it could be a precursor to this. Revelation 16:2, this is the wrath of God, okay, which has not happened yet. And the first went and poured out his vial upon the earth, and there fell a noisome and grievous sore upon the men which had the mark of the beast, and upon them which worshipped his image. So before this can happen, the mark of the beast has to be out to a substantial amount of people. This is not talking about 5 or 10 people that have taken it, okay, because then anything could be the mark, okay, literally anything. And so it could be just, a small group that does etchings on their hand or something like that, or on their arm or wherever, on their leg even, okay, because it's Dexios is the side. So it's not talking about a small number of people. So we have to, again, we know what it is, but it has to be out to a lot of people. And so, that's and this is coming up, after Christ returns. So again, not for sure on that, but I wouldn't be surprised if that's the case. That's why we have this weird sort of sense of like, hey, taking the foot off the gas kind of thing with all these rules. And then they'll be like, hey, look, it's like, hey man, we took the foot off the gas and look at all this stuff. And then they get even more control, over them and be like, oh, well, look at your stupid ideas. And so, would not be surprised if that's the case. And so, it's not required here in Houston in like restaurants and stuff, but it's definitely required in transportation. I think that's the most important piece of this prophecy, because those sores are going to be spread worldwide. So they have to blame it on people moving a lot, traveling and spreading it across planes and from one country to another. Or else people would be like, how did it get worldwide, and all that kind of stuff. So that's why I think they have to, God has to reopen the planes, and the transportation to be like, oh, okay, that's how it's spreading, that kind of thing. So, we'll see, and that kind of thing. But that's very clear that everything that's going to happen then, I suspect from that point forward, is going to be medical martial law. Okay. It's just, it'll shut everything down. Okay. And then, because they got to deal with those sores. And that's why God does that first. Okay. And so then he's going to start intensifying the issues. Okay. The wrath. So the first thing are the sores. So now people have sores, and then they're very likely locked into their place. And we see what's happening in Shanghai right now without even these sores. So it's bad. And then if you read Revelation 16, which we'll review right here, God then starts stepping on the accelerator. Okay. He starts, pedal to the metal. Okay. Quite literally. So we got the sores, and then the second angel, we have angels over the sea, over the water, and in it became as blood of a dead man, and every living soul in the sea died in the sea. So now God's attacking the wildlife. Okay. And then, now he's attacking the water supply. And so he's going to force a famine. Okay. And so now he's really like increasing the intensity. Okay. Fourth angel poured out his vial on the sun, and then there was a heat wave. Okay. And the power was given to scorch men with fire. And so then he's like, then there's going to be a massive heat wave. Okay. The fifth angel is a power outage. Can you imagine all the evil now? You have all these sick people. You have all these people that can't even move. Then they've already gone through a famine. And then now they've gone through this heat wave. And then now God shuts the power down. No AC. Okay. And it doesn't say how long he shuts the power down. But that's the fifth angel. Okay. Shuts the power down in America. And then they're continuing to blaspheme God. And then the sixth angel poured out his vial upon the great river Euphrates, which is necessary for the battle of Armageddon and for the way of the kings, like it says here in verse 14. And so, now he's like building up, okay, for the final battle in the Middle East. And the seventh angel poured out his vial in the air, and there came a great voice out of the temple of heaven saying, "It is done." And then there were thunders, lightning, and great earthquake. And that earthquake's the same one in Revelation 11. So, and then there was hail, that was exceedingly great. That's part of the seventh. And so that's the wrath of God. Okay. And so, that's going to be a very, very scary time, if it's not scary right now, for a lot of people. So it's not going to get any better. And so that's just something to be aware of. So I'm just reading, scanning over Revelation 1. Okay. Revelation 1, we quote for one of the many references for what Christ looks like physically. And it's not going to say Christ is black, okay, or Christ is this, okay. It's coded language. And then there'll always be verses in there to potentially confuse it for something else. And so we know that that's by design. So people will read this and say, like, he's white or something like that. Look, his head is white or something. So again, we know that that's by design. His head and his hairs were white like wool and white as snow, and his eyes were as flame of fire, and his feet like undefined brass if they burn in a furnace, and his voice a sound of many waters. So, you could just pick whatever you want, and then obviously the people who have common sense know that, that his feet are like undefined brass. So we know that he's dark skinned. Okay. And so Revelation 1, again, we have to understand that people knew this, of course, in the past, because they were with him, standing with him. And then other nations, they knew, what Christ looked like and what the people of that region looked like and stuff like that, because people of those regions came into their regions. So they're like, oh, you're a Hebrew and that. Okay. So that's, then they knew that. And it's not like a big mystery. But God does these quote unquote resets, throughout human history, and he resets what people know. Okay. And then he lifts the truth out. Okay. And Christ is the supreme example of that. And then the elect and the two witnesses are other examples of that. And so once the truth's out, then you just have a bunch of people telling lies. So Now we're reading the books, in Revelation. And then so we're reading things that we knew in a past life. Okay. And so it's like a reminder. Okay. But it's a revelation for us in this time that we live in. And so we're now getting revelation literally of what Christ looked like. And that's a clue. And he reveals it in a way that's subtle and only for certain people to understand. Okay. And so the book of Revelation just in general is bad news for a lot of people, which I was talking about earlier, much less this topic. Okay. That the Bible being true and Revelation being true is horrible news for a majority of people on this earth. Ultimately, it's only good news for the 144,000. So, we get also a very, very famous verse in Revelation 1:7. Behold, he cometh with clouds, and every eye shall see him, and they also which pierced him, and all kings of the earth shall wail because of him. So this is talking about the setup, okay? And then so John the Revelator, seeing in verse 10, I was in the Spirit on the Lord's day and heard behind me a great voice as a trumpet. So this is like a setup to what is going to be gone in more detail in the rest of the book. So talks about the golden candlesticks, the 7 churches, okay, which again support reincarnation, because they're talking about the 7 churches that exist during that time, and then they're going to be back in the last days receiving their judgment that is been written here. So all those quote unquote spirits are back here on this earth right now. And so this first chapter is like an introductory chapter, okay? And so again, I want people to understand the first 6 chapters talking about judgments, and revelations happening here on earth. And then chapter 7 is a summary, okay, an intermission, if you will. And then the next 6 chapters, more judgments, an intermission, 6 chapters, and then an intermission. And so that's the structure of the book of Revelation. Okay, and then the final one is the kingdom. So Revelation 22 has 22 chapters. And 22 is a number that references the earth. And 33 represents the rulership on the earth, whether it be righteous or unrighteous. So 33 is not a bad number, okay? And 22 represents the earth. And so that's why Revelation has 22 chapters. So now Revelation 2, now we're going here into the, different angel of the churches. And, some churches were better behaved than others. And so they're going to get different judgments in the last days. Okay. Then we get the famous verses here, Revelation 2:9. And, this just goes through, different things that they were doing in that time. And then because of what they did there, they're going to get a particular judgment, reincarnation. Okay. For example, in verse 14, but I have a few things against those, because thou hast there them that hold the doctrine of Balaam and taught Balak to cast a stumbling block before the children of Israel, to eat things sacrificed unto idols and to commit fornication. And so anybody teaching God's children to teach fornication, God's going to deal with them. Okay. And he says he hates those people. Okay. So as thou also them that hold the doctrine of the Nicolaitans, which thing I hate, repent, or else I will come unto thee quickly and will fight against them with the sword of my mouth. Okay. And if you fight against God like that, you're going to get destroyed, body and soul. So God definitely hates. Okay. And this is an aspect too of what's being revealed. And so again, it's consistent with the entire narrative of the whole Bible. And so God hates people who are breaking his laws. And then even worse, going to teach other people to go and break those laws. And so these are things that he's going to deal with in the days that we live in now. Then it talks about, the church of Thyatira. I know thy works and charity and service and faith and thy patience. And then he's like, I still have a few things against you. And then he talks about, Jezebel, to seduce my servants to commit fornication and to sing sacrifice idols. So we get a reaffirmation here that God hates that. Okay. God's not about, just, being with prostitutes and disgusting stuff and fornication, all that. Really? Does that sound like that? He's angry again here with this church. And I gave her space to repent her for her fornication, and she repented not. Behold, I'll cast her into a bed, and them that commit adultery with her into great tribulation. Okay, now we're starting to understand what the judgments are. Okay, and tribulation and great tribulation are not the same thing, because this is not what the elect are doing. So they're only going to go through tribulation. The elect are not going to be teaching people to commit fornication. Okay. It's not funny and like to eat food sacrificed to idols. No. Okay. And so if you're in the great tribulation, you're in the wrath of God, which we're going to read in Revelation 16. So they're going to get plagues. and sores. And a lot of Israelites are going to get those sores as well because they're down with the beast system 100%. Okay. And so they're not going to get any different treatment. God hates a majority of people on this earth. Verse 23, and I'll kill her children with death. Okay. I will kill her children. And so, and all the churches shall know that I am he which searcheth the reins and hearts, and I'll give unto everyone according to your works. Okay. And so, now we're starting to see exactly what God's going to do to his people first and foremost. So again, we just get, these are all like visions, and judgments that John the Revelator is seeing. And then he's being told, because he's being told to write these things down because God knows that in the future, people are going to be reading this. Okay. And then we're going to get an understanding of the things that God likes and dislikes, and then the judgment that he's going to be administering first to his people, the Israelites. Okay. Let me read that verse. Because the judgment is going to begin at the house of God, according to 1 Peter 4:17. So it's going to begin with Israelites. For the time is coming that judgment must begin at the house of God. What's the house of God? It's America. Okay, because that's where a majority of the Israelites are. And if it first begin at us, what shall the end be of them that obey not the gospel of God? So if God's going to do all that stuff that we're reading in Revelation 2 and 3 to his churches, what's he going to do to the other people? Okay, who don't even care. They'll be like, yeah, fornication's great, adultery's great. What do you think he's going to do to them? Who literally brag about it? Okay, they're totally finished. And so, just know that. Okay, that's why we're being told here the judgment of people who actually are aware of God's laws. Now we're going on to the church of Sardis. Okay. Revelation 3:3 talks about Christ returning. Okay, again, the number 33 oftentimes signifies Christ's return. Remember, therefore, how thou hast received and heard, and hold fast and repent. If therefore thou shalt not watch, I will come upon thee as a thief, and thou shalt not know the hour I will come upon thee. So he's like, you should know what time you're in. Okay, don't get comfortable. And that's in verse 33, which oftentimes references things in the last days. So, this is a group that looks like it's a part of the mixed multitude, because it says here, he that overcometh, the same shall be clothed in white raiment, and I will not blot out his name out of the book of life, but I'll confess his name before my Father and before his angels. And so this is a group that, has to go through it, but they're going to be in the kingdom. Okay. It says he that overcometh. Now we have God's most prized possession. Okay. The church of Philadelphia. Okay. This is the church of God's elect. These things in verse 7, these things saith he that is holy, he that is true, he that hath the key of David, he that openeth and no man shutteth, and shutteth and no man openeth. I know thy works. Behold, I have set before thee an open door, and no man could shut it, for thou hast little strength, and hast kept my word, and hast not denied my name. Okay. Behold, I'll make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. Behold, I'll make them to come and worship before thy feet, and know that I have loved thee. So when Christ returns with this group, the saints, they're going to be beneath their feet. Now they're going to be like, oh, brother Abraham, father Abraham, and all this, that they're going to, like the rich man, all that. That's literal. And this is literal. I'm worshiping God, but it's going to be too late. Okay. And so that it's when it says, I'll make them to come and worship before thy feet. It's beneath them. Okay. Just know that the Bible is not written for very many people. Verse 10, because thou hast kept the word of my patience, I'll also will keep thee from the hour of temptation, which shall come upon all the world to try them that dwell on the earth. So this group is special. They're exempt from the hour of temptation. Okay. Which I believe, it's has to be soon. Okay. Revelation 3:11, 3 times 11, again references Christ's second coming. Behold, I come quickly. Hold that fast which thou hast, that no man take thy crown. Okay. Verse 12, he that overcometh will I make a pillar in the temple of my God, and he shall go no more out. So this is a special group. Okay. This is the 144,000. And I'll write upon him the name of my God and the name of the city of my God, which is New Jerusalem, which come down out of heaven from my God, and I'll write upon him my new name. So this is that temple that's coming down. If you read the book of Revelation later, which we'll scan over. And so this is the elect. Okay. The church of Philadelphia. He that hath an ear, let him hear what the Spirit saith unto the churches. And unto the angel of the church of the Laodiceans write, these things saith the Amen, the faithful and true witness, the beginning of the creation of God. I know thy works, thou art neither hot nor cold. I would thou were cold or hot. So then, because thou art lukewarm and neither cold nor hot, I'll spew thee out of my mouth. And so God's not a big fan of these people here in this one. Okay. And, they're going to get judged. Okay. As many as I love, I rebuke and chasten. Be zealous, therefore, and repent. Behold, I stand at the door and knock. And if any man hear my voice and open the door, I will come into him and will sup with him and he with me. And so, now we're getting a sense of all the judgments, that God's going to be exercising in the last days. So his prized church is the church of Philadelphia, which is the church of the elect. Revelation 4. What do we got here? As I looked, and behold, a door was open in heaven, and the first voice which I heard was that word of a trumpet talking with me, which had come up hither, and I'll show thee things which must be hereafter. And so now we're going to get more and more specific insights about the judgments. Okay. And so all these things are, visions that John the Revelator is seeing. And he's being told very specific things. Okay. And he's still figuring out what this is too. Okay. Like he's not able to know exactly what's going on, but he'll be back on this earth again. And we're going to read that verse, coming up that, he's going to be reading, stuff that he wrote. Okay. And so God's going to show him what he was writing. Okay. And that kind of thing. So, here we get some language. So now John's seeing these UFOs, okay, these visions. Check this out. In Revelation 4:3, and he that sat was to look upon a jasper and a sardine stone, and there was a rainbow round about the throne, a rainbow, like an arch. Okay. So Christ, when they're talking about he's sitting down, he's in these UFOs. Okay. And so that's what's being described here when it talks about a throne in heaven. Okay. And so these descriptions of a rainbow or a covering or a dome above them is symbolic language of Christ in his judgment seat. When he's in a judgment seat, he's literally in a judgment seat. Okay. In one of these so quote unquote UFOs. And in this case, in sight, unto an emerald. So it's glowing. Okay. And so, just know that. So that's what, he's seeing in these kind of visions. And then in the verse 7, it's talking about the first was a beast like a lion, the second beast like a calf and all that. So most people read this and be like, what the hell is this talking about? Okay. But these are describing UFOs, and then the way that they move around. And then they're all ultimately doing what the Most High tells them to do. So, then we get, reference to the 24 elders. And so just know that this is what John's seeing. And it's not a new thing for the Israelites. Okay. They've dealt with UFOs regularly. Okay. And even other nations would know. Sodom would know for sure. So that's how they got burned. So it's not a new thing. Again, this is revelation. So it's being revealed to us in the last days. So it's new for us potentially. Revelation verse 5, and I saw in the right hand of him that sat on the throne a book written within, and on the backside sealed with 7 seals. So if you take a book, if you have a book, okay, and the backside is sealed with 7 seals, okay, that's the book of Revelation. Okay, no matter how many different books you have in your Bible, the back of the book is the book of Revelation. Okay. And so John the Revelator is being told here that him that sat on the throne, a book written within, okay, and on the backside sealed with 7 seals. And so after Christ's sacrifice, which with the ceremony that's taking place here, the seals were opened. Okay, so the end times began after Christ died on the cross. From that point on, you can set your clock. It started ticking. Okay, so we've been in the end times for a long time now. We're at the end of the end times. Okay, so and I saw a strong angel proclaim with a loud voice, "Who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof?" So not everybody can do it. Okay, the only person that can do it is Christ, and then he's going to tell certain people what that means. Okay, and that's his elect. and they're sealed in Revelation 7, and we're going to see that. So, but this has to be done first. The seals have to be loosed, okay? Because from that point on, God's going to start administering those plagues, okay? And then loosing these seals, and then each of the seals have a very specific judgment here on earth, okay? And I saw a strong angel proclaiming with a loud voice, who is worthy to open the book and to loose the seals thereof? And no man in heaven, nor on earth, nor under the earth was able to open the book, neither to look thereon. So it appears that there's a holding place under the earth for souls. Okay, not a community with bodies, having drinks and happy hour, you stupid people. There's definitely a holding place, we understand, for souls, okay, for judgment. That's why it says here, neither under the earth, okay, was able to open the book. In Second Ezra calls it the place of habitations, okay, or the bottomless pit, is what it's referenced as in Revelation 9:11. So that's not hell. Hell is the physical earth, okay. Like it says here, no man in heaven, the heavens, nor in earth, which is the earth, which is hell, nor under the earth, which is that place of habitation, holding place, was it, or the sea gave up the dead which were in it. That's the way it's used, and other places here. Was able to open the book, neither to look thereon. And I wept much because no man was found worthy to open and to read the book, neither to look thereon. And one of the elders, so he's crying because then it's well, how is this ever going to end? That's the caring, the amount that John the Revelator cares for his people. He's like, well, if the book's sealed, okay, and it's stuck like that, then how was this ever going to end? Okay. And so that makes him sad. Okay. And I wept much because there was no one found worthy to open and to read the book, neither to look thereon. Okay. One of the elders saith unto me, weep not, behold, the Lion of the tribe of Judah, the root of David, hath prevailed to open the book and to loose the 7 seals thereof. Okay. So this is a ceremony that's going on in the spirit world, and John the Revelator is being allowed to see it. Okay. And his eyes were blessed for God to allow him to see that dimension. Okay. To see this going on. Verse 6, and I beheld, and lo, in the midst of the throne and one of the 4 beasts, and in the midst of the elders stood a lamb as it had been slain, having 7 horns and 7 eyes, which are the 7 spirits of God sent forth into all the earth. So he's seeing Christ in his UFO, and he's seeing all the angels around him. Okay. And so, which are the 7 spirits of God sent forth into all the earth. And so they're able to move into these UFOs. Okay. And they take care of different parts of the earth. There's angels of the sea, there's angels of different parts, there's angels of the Euphrates, there's angels of different parts of the earth. And he came and took the book out of the right hand of him that sat upon the throne. And when he had taken the book, the 4 beasts and 24 elders sat down before the Lamb, having every one of them harps and golden vials full of odors, which are the prayers of the saints. And they sung a new song, saying, thou art worthy to take the book and to open the seals thereof, for thou wast slain. Okay. So after Christ was slain, he was taken up into the spirit realm, and he's back at the right hand of the Most High, and hast redeemed us to God by the blood out of every kindred and tongue and people and nation, and hast made us unto our God kings and priests, and we shall reign on the earth. This is the elect, okay, which will be reigning on the earth with Christ during that 1,000-year millennial reign. And so, that's what's going on right here. And so, I pretty much read all of it, but, you can just finish the rest. There's nothing new here as far as what is happening. And, it's Christ with his angels. Okay. And I beheld and heard the voice of many angels, and around about the throne and the beasts and the elders, and the number of them was 10,000 times 10,000 and thousands of thousands. And so these are the angels that are going to be sent forth to collect God's elect. Okay. And that's in 5:11:55. Okay. And so they're the ones that Christ will be returning with when he takes away his elect. Okay. And so Christ rolls deep, so to speak. Okay. He's got plenty of protection. Okay. And these vehicles are supernatural. They can move in any way that they want. Okay. In and out of this dimension. And what God tells them, they do it. Okay. And no one stops them. Saying with a loud voice, worthy is the Lamb that was slain to receive power and riches and wisdom and strength and honor and glory and blessing. So you can see that Christ is being blessed too. Okay. Christ has his own quote unquote will. Okay. His own function. Just like we all have our own function. I ask the people that come by here, what's your function? What's your role? We know what Christ's role is. We know what the 2 witnesses' role is. We're about to read it specifically. We know what the elect's role is. We're going to read that. We know what the mixed multitude's role is. We'll read that. I just ask people that come by here, what's your role? Okay. Christ has a role here, and that his incredible sacrifice gave him power, riches, and wisdom, and strength, and honor, and glory, and blessing from the Most High. Okay. Verse 13, and every creature which is in heaven and on the earth and under the earth, and such are in the sea. Okay. That place of habitations, and all that are in them heard, I say, blessing and honor and glory and power be unto him that sitteth upon the throne and upon the Lamb forever and ever. So all of creation is rejoicing. Okay. This is the God. Okay. He's very worthy for what he did, going through that incredible sacrifice. Okay. And the 4 beasts said, Amen. And the 4 and 24 elders fell down and worshipped him that liveth forever and ever. They're in subjection to him. Okay. And so Christ is receiving his due praise. Okay. Because of what he did. Okay. On the cross. And so that's a ceremony. Okay. Now the seals are worthy. Okay. To be opened by Christ. And when I saw the Lamb open one of the seals, I heard, as it were, the noise of thunder, one of 4 beasts saying, Come and see. And I saw and behold a white horse, and he that sat on him, that sat on him had a bow, and a crown was given unto him, and he went forth conquering and to conquer. So now, remember, that chapter 5 is Christ after he was sacrificed and died on the cross. After he went and visited his disciples, he was taken away in a UFO by John the Baptist and Moses. Okay, Elijah and Moses. Those are the 2 witnesses in Acts. Okay, and so he's taken away. And then that ceremony occurred. And then John the Revelator was able to see it. Okay, at some point after that. So now that's already happened. Okay, so now these Lamb opened one of the seals. So now he's worthy. So he's going to start opening these seals. I want people to know this is thousands of years ago. Okay, this is not like today. Okay, these things are happening in the past. And so this is what I want people to understand. All the things that we've read are things that have occurred already. And then the churches are, John the Revelator seeing visions in the future. That part has to be fulfilled. But these are all things that are done. Okay. And so now we see this, behold, a white horse, and a crown was given unto him. He went forth conquering and to conquer. So now we have to have leadership on earth that's about conquering other nations. Okay. And so that requires a certain spirit, because most people won't leave their region. They're like, yeah, I'm fine here. I'm comfortable. I'll just stay here amongst my people. But no, it says here that this symbolic of the power structures that are happening, it went forth conquering and to conquer. So you need a group of people who have the ability to conquer and to be successful at it. Okay. And so God puts that spirit in them to do that. Okay. When he had opened the second seal, I heard the second beast and say, went out, and there went out another horse, and power was given unto him that sat thereon to take peace from the earth. So that means that there was a great deal of peace, or more peace than there certainly is now. And so now the conquering is now causing division. Okay. And then it's taking peace. It's introducing more and more evil. Okay. God is infusing more and more evil onto the earth. When Christ was on the earth, that was the most amount of righteousness that's ever been on the earth ever in human history. Once Christ puts his feet on the ground. Okay. That's the most. Okay. So when he's taken away, then there's more and more evil being infused into the earth. Okay. And that's what these seals are for. All this has happened already. Okay. And when he opened the third seal, I heard the third beast say, Come and see. And I beheld, and lo, a black horse, and he sat on them, had a pair of balances in his hand. Okay. So now we have inflation. Okay. And I heard a voice in the midst of the 4 beasts say, A measure of wheat for a penny, and 3 measures for a barley for a penny, and see thou not hurt the oil and the wine. And so now they're going to now set up these money systems, these fraudulent money systems. And then now God's going to use that to create famines, and scarcity of resources. Okay. And again, all these things have happened already. Okay. There's no one coming with a horse to conquer and all that. There's already a one world government. Okay. If you haven't figured that out yet, no one's conquering anything. Okay. What's going on right now is God's judgment. Okay. In Ukraine and Russia and everywhere. Okay. America and all that kind of stuff. Okay. Now they're setting their final judgments. Okay. That's what God's doing. But all this was a lead up. Okay. And so just know that. Now we're going to the 4th seal, and I looked and beheld a pale horse, and his name that sat on him was Death, and hell followed with him, and power was given unto them over the 4th part of the earth to kill with the sword, and with hunger, and with death, and with beasts of the earth. So now there's more and more killing. Okay. And it's mass killing. And so the only way you can do that is if you conquer nations. Okay. And that's what happened in the first one. So now you can just see there's more and more sort of bloodthirsty people on the earth. Okay. And leadership, ultimately. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. So once Christ was taken away, the earth was now given over to wicked people who are conquering and trying to kill and manipulate the money supply. So we see that. And when he opened the fifth seal, I saw under the altar the souls that were slain for the word of God and for the testimony which they held. And they cried with a loud voice, saying, how long, O Lord, holy and true, dost thou not judge and avenge our blood on them that dwell on the earth? And white robes were given unto them, every one of them. And it was said unto them that they should rest for a little season, until their fellow servants also and their brethren that they should be killed as they were be fulfilled. Okay, so these are all the people in the past that have been killed according to these seals, and they're waiting. Okay, they're like, when is this going to end? Okay, they're like, wait a minute, there's another group that has to die. So this is the dead in Christ. Okay, and so they've already gone through those things in the judgments, and they're waiting, in that place of habitation, of rest. Okay. And beheld, when he had opened the sixth seal, and lo, there was a great earthquake, and the sun became black as sackcloth of hair, and the moon became as blood, and the stars of heaven fell to the earth, even as a fig tree casteth her untimely figs when she is shaken by a mighty wind. And the heaven departed as a scroll. Okay, all these like atomic bombs and all that kind of stuff, it literally looks like a scroll. Okay, and so this is letting us know that technology is being developed. Okay, and God's developing it. Okay, and that's even a small taste of what God can actually do. Okay, but the heaven departed as a scroll. If you look at a visual of like a bomb being dropped, whatever the bomb is, okay, nuclear, whatever, it literally looks like a mushroom, like a scroll. Okay, and the heaven departed, so you can't even see the sky anymore. Okay, so this is talking about weaponry that God is developing. Okay, and he's been doing it for a long time now. Okay, and the kings of the earth, the great men and the rich men and the chief captains and the mighty men and every bondman and every free man hid themselves in the dens and the rocks. They're like, what is this? Like they have never seen a nuclear bomb before and all that kind of stuff. They're horrified. Okay, for us it's normal now. It's like, oh yeah, the missiles were shot, no big deal. We don't even care. Okay, and so this is a time that's unusual for them. And said to the mountains and rocks, fall on us and hide from the face of him that sitteth on the throne and from the wrath of the Lamb, for the great day of the wrath is come. So now this is the wrath of God. Okay, that's about to come. And who shall be able to stand? And so all of that lead up is for the last days that we live in now. And then the wrath of God is described, which we'll read in Revelation 16. For the great day of his wrath is come. Okay, so God's doing all that foundation, that legwork, okay, to prepare for this time period that we're living in now. Okay, so Revelation 6 has already happened. Okay, and so now we go. So we've read 6 chapters. Okay, we've gone through it high level. Now we have Revelation 7. This is a summary chapter. Okay, and so God goes through the sequence here. In 7, 14, and 21, he does it in reverse for whatever reason. It's up to him. So, but again, this is the intermission. And so that's, again, these pretty much all these chapters have the sequence in it. But, this one is very clear. And so I've already have videos that show that pretty much every chapter in Revelation goes through the sequence, but some of it's encoded, some of it's not so much. But Revelation 7 starts with 144,000. They're being sealed. Okay. And after these things, I saw 4 angels standing on the 4 corners of the earth, holding the 4 winds of the earth, that the wind should not blow on the earth, nor on the sea, nor on any tree. And I saw an angel ascending from the east, having the seal of the living God. And he cried with a loud voice to the 4 angels to whom it was given to hurt the earth and the sea, saying, hurt not the earth, neither the sea nor the trees, till we have sealed the servants of our God in our foreheads. So it just mentioned the wrath in the last chapter. Okay. In Revelation 6, they're like, wait a minute, before that wrath, do this. Okay. Which is seal the servants of our living God. Okay. And this literally goes through the 144,000 that God seals. So it's like, wait a minute, before you do that, okay, seal these group. Okay. And I'm proof that this has happened already, because they clearly have to know as much as I do. So I would assume at this point that that's happened already. Now, so you have the elect being sealed. Okay. Then you have the elect being listed. Okay. Which is code of reference to them. They're going to be taken out. They were sealed, and then they were delivered prior to wrath. Okay. Verse 9, after this, and lo, a great multitude which no man could number, of all nations. And so this is the mixed multitude. Okay. And so, they're described. So you have the elect, then you have the mixed multitude, and those two groups together with the dead in Christ make the kingdom. Okay. And they're all receiving salvation, which means that their soul does not have to return to earth. Okay. They'll be in an immortal state. Okay. In the kingdom. And so, and cried with a loud voice, saying, salvation to our God, which sitteth upon the throne, and to the Lamb. And so now you get, they're worshiping God and that type of thing. And then somebody's asking, hey, who are those? What's that other group? Okay, what's that mixed multitude? What's going on with them? And I said unto him, Sir, thou knowest. And he said unto me, these are they which came out of great tribulation. Okay, remember that church that we read that God's going to throw into great tribulation? They had to go through it. Okay. These are they which came out of great tribulation and have washed their robes and made them white in the blood of the Lamb. They had to die. Okay. Christ didn't die for that group. Okay. Christ died for the group that they don't die in the last days. Okay. It doesn't mean that this group's not saved and in the kingdom, but Christ died for his elect. Okay. And so they don't die in the last days. And so it's his sacrifice that covers their sins. And so this group had to die because of their sins. And so they would not accept Christ and come forward and accept his truth. Okay. And do the things and teach the things that he asked them to. Therefore, they are before the throne of God and serve him day and night in his temple, which is his elect. And he that sitteth on the throne shall dwell among them. Okay. So it's the throne with Christ, the temple, which is the elect, and the outer courts, which we'll read language of that later, is this mixed multitude. Okay. That no man could number. So they're all going to serve the elect. And then the elect will serve Christ. Verse 16, they shall hunger no more, neither thirst anymore, neither shall the sun light on them, nor any heat. And so God's not going to harm them. Okay. And there is going to be some element of how they're able to decide whether to go along with things or not, but he's not going to like beat them over the head or anything like that. Okay. That's not a kingdom. That's stupid. Verse 17, for the Lamb which is in the midst of the throne shall feed them and shall lead them unto living fountains of water. Okay. Which is knowledge and wisdom. And God shall wipe away all tears from their eyes. Okay. So that's a summary chapter. Okay. An intermission. So God does the same thing in Genesis that he does in Revelation. It's amazing to witness. Okay. Fear the Lord. Good to see you, man. I'll read the chat after. I see, Mason, what's up, man? LOP, good to see you. Orange Gorilla and Rob, good to see you. And IDL, you dummy. You're just bored, man. IDL, you come by here, you're going to know way more about the Bible than you probably want to. But, it doesn't hurt to learn, about Revelation. And as we're seeing it come to pass, Revelation chapter 8. So now we expect another 6 chapters of judgments, okay, that are happening here. And when he had opened the 7th seal, there was silence in heaven about the space of half an hour, and saw the 7 angels who stood before God, and to them which given 7 trumpets. Another angel came and stood on the altar, having a golden censer, and there was given unto him much incense, that he should offer it with the prayers of all the saints upon the golden altar which was before the throne. And the smoke of the incense which came with the prayers of the saints ascended up before God out of the angel's hand. There's all these ceremonies. Okay, he's seeing all these ceremonies. So God has ceremonies. Okay, there's order in the heavens. Okay, it's like, hey, let's get together. We're going to do this, and then this is the process. Okay, and you're going to do this. You're going to do this, and then you're going to do this. Okay, it's not random nonsense. Hey, can I interrupt? And people asking stupid questions and all that. No, it's like God's doing all this. Okay, and he does it in a very specific order. Okay, with righteous people, righteous souls. And the first angel sounded, and there followed hail and fire mingled with blood, and they were cast upon the earth, and the third part of the trees were burnt up, and all the green grass was burnt up. So now we're seeing, this is a bit of symbolic language, but God's bringing more and more destruction to the earth. Again, the end times began after Christ was taken away. So these are all things that God has been doing over the years. He's been bringing different plagues and stuff over the course of human history. And to me, this language of a third part of the trees is symbolic. Okay, there's not like a third part of the trees like burnt now or anything like that. The Bible does say in the end, all the trees are going to be burned pretty much. So this is like a symbolic language of the third part is like the 33. Okay, the leadership on the earth being unrighteous. Okay, and then Freemasons use the number 33, but a third part is symbolic. Okay, of how God is bringing progressive, more and more evil leadership and rulership on the earth. Okay. And the third part of the trees were burnt up, and all green grass were burnt. And the second angel sound as a great mountain burning with fire was cast into the sea, and the third part of the sea became blood. So all these different things that we see worldwide were like all the things are happening in the forest and all that kind of stuff being burnt and all that. And then, all the different animals getting just wiped to the shores and all that. Okay, this has happened in the past where God is bringing more and more death to the earth. Okay, he's letting us know through this that there's going to be a structure, evil leadership worldwide that's going to be constantly trying to destroy the earth. And the Bible says he's going to destroy them that destroy the earth. And that's these people. Okay. And the third part of the creatures which were in the sea had died, and the third part of the ships were destroyed. Third angel sounded, and there were a great star from heaven burning as a lamp, fell upon the third part of the river. So now he's contaminating the water supply. Okay. And the name of the star is called Wormwood. So all these like names are like specific. So like there be particular angels that have particular jobs over like water bodies. Okay, you do that, you contaminate that, and all that kind of stuff. So, and many men died of the waters because they were made bitter. And so God's literally attacking, the water supply. Okay, and this has all happened in the past. Revelation 8 has happened already. And the fourth angel sounded, and the third part of the sun was smitten, and the third part of the moon, and the third part of the stars. So the third part of them was darkened, and the day shone not for a third part of it, and the night likewise. And I beheld and heard an angel flying through the midst of heaven, saying with a loud voice, Woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels which are yet to sound. That's the key phrase. And so woe, woe, woe has not happened yet. Okay. And so this is all a lead up to the three woes, which we're going to read, beginning of the first one in the next chapter. So God has done all this already. Okay. People read the Bible. They don't have a clue what the hell's going on. Okay. It's important to know. It is funny because it's obvious to us, at least. So everything up to verse 12 has happened already in Revelation 8. 13 tells us, it says, woe, woe, woe to the inhabitants of the earth, by reason of the other voices of the trumpet of the three angels, which are yet to sound. Okay. So now we go into the three woes. Okay. And it's very distinct and you cannot miss it. Okay. It's plain. Okay. Revelation 9, this has a famous verse, Revelation 9:11. And the fifth angel sounded, and I saw a star fell from heaven unto the earth, and to him was given the key of the bottomless pit. This is that habitation, okay, in the beneath the earth, the holding place, okay. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there rose a smoke out of the pit. So a bottomless pit is symbolic language for the fact that it's spiritual. You can't have a pit that doesn't have a bottom, okay, unless it's a spiritual thing. An actual pit has a bottom, okay, it has a structure. So this is spiritual language for that holding place. Okay. It's not Europe. Okay. Somebody said Europe or something like that. I don't know what the hell people are talking about. Okay. But this is not the physical earth. That's what I want people to distinguish. It's not the earth. Okay. Which is hell. This is this is a holding place of all the souls that God calls up for a particular judgment. Okay. And now he's ready to introduce his one world government. So he's now doing this. Okay. And he opened the bottomless pit, and there arose smoke out of the pit as the smoke of a great furnace, and the sun and the air were darkened by reason of the smoke of the pit. And there came out of the smoke locusts upon the earth, and unto them was given great power, and the scorpions of the earth had power. And it was commanded that they should not hurt the grass of the earth, neither any green thing, neither any tree, but only those men which had not the seal of God in their forehead. And to them it was given that they should not kill them, but as that they should be tormented 5 months, and they're tormented with as a torment of a scorpion when he striketh a man. So this is all the lead up to modern day warfare. Okay. And so now we're getting increased technology, and then all the wars, I would say, would fall into this as well. Okay. The World War I and World War II, whatever you believe they are, staged or scripted or whatever. It's ultimately God's left-hand side, just duking it out, just like what's going on now. So that's what's happening. And so God is using all those wars to build up the weaponry and all the commotion and all that kind of stuff for the final battle, which is going to be in the Middle East. So there's all this more and more evil, okay, and torment. And so God is using symbolic language here to describe modern day warfare. And we'll read that in, the verse 8, okay. And so they're not going to be like, yeah, there's a helicopter or a drone, okay. They're using symbolic language, and John the Revelator has never seen a helicopter or anything in his life. So that's why they use the language that I'm about to read. And to them it was given that they should not kill, but that they should be tormented 5 months. And their torment was at the torment of a scorpion, and he striketh a man. So all the historical wars, and all that, when you're out in the field, you just die. And like, they're like, where do I go? Like, I don't have a leg. It just got blown off and stuff. And so they want to die. Okay. But they can't die. And so they're basically being tormented. This is God's left-hand side fighting against each other. Okay. Because they're just a bunch of monkeys and monsters. And so this is their judgment. And in those days, men shall seek death and shall not find it, and shall desire to die, and death shall flee for them. They'll be out in the field. They won't have access to like anything that they can do anything. They may have lost a leg or something. They can't even move, but they're still conscious. And so this describing modern day warfare. And the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses, prepared unto battle. He's talking about locusts. So if John the Revelator sees, like, if you see a helicopter in the sky and you've never seen one before, what would you describe it? I describe it as like a bug. Okay. It literally looks like a bug in the sky. Okay. With like hair that's spinning around. That's what John the Revelator, if you've never seen a helicopter or knew any of that technology, you'd be like, it's a locust in the sky. And so, and the shapes of the locusts were like unto horses prepared unto battle. So as he's seeing like helicopters and drones and stuff, fighter jets, and on the heads were as crowns like gold, and the faces were as faces of men. So he could see that there was a man in the vehicle, because you can see it, that they're operating it, and the faces were as the faces of men. So he sees that a man is flying it. And they had hair as the hair of a woman, and their teeth were as the teeth of lions. So the hair of a woman. So on the top of it, it'd have hair like spinning around. Okay, that's a helicopter. Okay, and drone technology. And so that's what John the Revelator is seeing here. And they had breastplates, as it were, breastplates of iron, and the sound of their wings as the sound of chariots of many horses running to battle. So he could hear the sound of it. God even played it for him. Okay, the choppers. And so this is a famous verse. And they had a king over them, which is the angel of the bottomless pit, which is God's entire left-hand side, the leader of it, whose name in the Hebrew tongue is Abaddon, but in the Greek tongue hath the name Apollyon. And so God's like, all right, bring all those spirits out now. Okay, let's get it on. Okay. And so they're all now coordinating amongst themselves to prepare for the battle in heaven. Okay. They don't care about other things. Okay. Other countries and all that. They're all on the same team. Okay. They had a king over them, one king. So God has now given them one directive, and that's to prepare to fight against God. Okay. And that's why they're preparing all those weapons and missiles and stuff like that. One woe is past, and behold, there come two more woes thereafter. So that has happened already. Okay. This is the Revelation 9:11 is talking about the 9/11 event. Okay. Where now at that moment, God then used that as a ceremony on earth to release all the souls that are going to be fighting against him, in the last days. And they're all working together. Okay. In the space stuff. You think they're really beef between countries when they're all in the space together? Okay. Like all the astronauts are together and all that. Give me a break. And so we know that this is a one world government. Okay. That's being stamped and begun. The clock is ticking according to the first woe, which has happened already, with the 9/11 event being the figurehead for that. It was symbolic. Okay. Everybody knew what was going on. Okay. Like the leaders. And then God also used the beginning of that to now wake his right-hand side up of the deception. Okay. Because a lot of people reference that day as like, or that event as like, that's when I started realizing, things aren't adding up, kind of thing. Okay. So that's the first woe. Okay. And that's happened already. And the sixth angel sounded, and I heard a voice from the four horns of the golden altar, which is before God, saying to the sixth angel, which had the trumpet, loose the four angels which are bound in the great river Euphrates. And the four angels were loose, which are prepared for an hour and a day and a month and a year, for to slay the third part of men. And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000, and I heard the number of them. Okay. And so this is talking about now they're like getting ready. Okay. For this battle in the Middle East. Okay. That's why it references the great river Euphrates. And so they're preparing this many missiles to shoot against God. Can you imagine that? And the number of the army of the horsemen were 200,000. That's a lot. Okay. And so they're all laboring. All the countries are stockpiling missiles. Okay. And things to shoot in the sky. Okay. Against God. Okay. Because they know that Christ is going to return. Okay. God's controlling them. Okay. Because he controls the left and the right hand side. So they know what they're up against, so to speak. So all the nations are taking all the tax money, and notice how they only spend it on the military. Okay. There's like, we got to worry about this and all this kind of stuff. It's like no normal country would take that much money and make weapons. Like, for what reason? They all know that the earth is flat. So they're all preparing for God. Okay. To try and kill him again. Can you imagine that? And that's outlined clearly in Second Ezra, which I quote a lot. Second Ezra 13:34 is this group. Okay. This group that had a king over them. Second Ezra 13:34, and a innumerable multitude shall be gathered together as thou sawest them, willing to come and to overcome him by fighting. Second Ezra 13:34, 444, FFF 666. So this is God's entire left-hand side, an innumerable multitude. That's billions of people. Okay. They've been laboring for many, many years. They didn't all of a sudden, you know what, let's be friends now and team up against God. No, they've known that this is happening and it's about to happen. So They're very aware. Why else would you stockpile that many missiles, which is what that's talking about in Revelation 9. There's not 200,000 people. Or like, what are people going to do? Okay, against God, who cares? They're just, what are they all going to stand there, and just like yell at God, argue with him? No, it's like those are missiles, okay, that they're going to use to try and shoot and in the sky, okay, and kill God. And I saw the horses in the vision, and them that sat on them having breastplates of fire and of jacinth and brimstone. So there's like heat, okay. And the heads of the horses were as heads of lions. These are the ICBMs, okay. And out of their mouths issued fire and smoke and brimstone. So they're hot, and they're gonna, whenever they hit them, they'll explode, okay. And so that's what they're preparing. That's what all this weaponry is being designed here. So beginning on 9/11, literally the event, okay, they were like, dude, mass produce them, okay, build them, stockpile them. That's what NASA's a front for, to weaponize space. Just turn the crank, dude, build all that stuff, make as many as you can, stockpile them and everywhere. So that's what that number is referring to. And that's in the modern era. Okay. You needed the internet and all that to communicate and, share designs and all that kind of stuff. When they meet in all these different countries, they're meeting because they're like, hey, what's the inventory? That's what they're really asking each other. They're not like, hey, I had beef with you and you did this and all that kind of stuff. They're like, what are we at now? How many missiles do we have? Okay. That's what they really care about, because they know who the real invader is going to be God. Okay. And so that's the setup for, what's about to happen in the modern day. Okay. So Revelation 9 is in the past, and then modern day warfare, military industrial complex. Revelation 10. Okay. So now we get another vision here, and then we get to see that another example of reincarnation. John the Revelator is now being told that he's going to be prophesying again, in the last days. So that can only be possible with reincarnation. And I saw another mighty angel come down from heaven, clothed with a cloud, and a rainbow was on his head. A rainbow was upon his head, a bow. Okay. And so, and his face was were a sun, and his feet were pillars of fire. Okay. And this is a so-called UFO. Okay. There's other language in Zechariah, that lets us know the other ways that they describe it. And it's described in Zechariah with a bowl on top. Okay, Zechariah 4 verse 2, and said unto me, what seest thou? And I said, I have looked, and behold, a candlestick all of gold, and a bowl on top of it. So it's like a dome. Okay. And so Zechariah is describing a UFO as well. And so that's what these angels move around in. Okay, these quote unquote UFOs, the chariots of God. And he had in his hand a little book open, and he set his right foot upon the sea and his left foot on the earth, and cried with a loud voice with a lion, as when a lion roareth, and when he had cried, 7 thunders uttered their voices. Okay, and so this book is the book of Revelation, and John's being told to consume it. Verse 10, and I took the little book out of the angel's hand and ate it up, and in my mouth was sweet as honey, and as soon as I ate it, my belly was bitter. And he said unto me, thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings. And so John the Revelator is going to be prophesying again in the last days. It's a bit sort of difficult to understand because of the transfiguration, but there is a possibility that John the Revelator is Moses. Okay. But the reason I didn't push that, or can't say that for certain, is because of the transfiguration, because John was one of the disciples that went up to meet Moses and Elijah. And so it doesn't describe what he said or anything like that. So his spirit could have been, one of the ones that was visiting God with Elijah. But that interaction makes it a bit confusing. So I don't push that, that he's one of the prophets, one of the 2 witnesses, but because of that interaction. But there's nothing in that interaction that says that he can't be, one of the people that were there. And then Elijah was there too, okay, with Jesus. So because I believe 3 of the disciples went up and saw that. So, but he could be prophesying, in his own way, wherever, with anywhere. But there could also be room to understand that that's talking about the 2 witnesses. And it is curious that that's in verse 11. With me, with the numerology, that's strange, not strange, but I doubt it's a coincidence. Okay. So there is a chance, and it takes some depth to understand that John the Revelator is Moses. Okay. And so that's why he's the disciple that was very, very close to God. Okay, because Moses is close to God. And then Elijah is the other one, which is John the Baptist. So When Christ was on the scene, okay, he wanted to be prepared by Elijah, who's John the Baptist, who led the way. And then his right-hand man was Moses, okay, who's John the Revelator. So that's what it could possibly mean here. And he said unto me, thou must prophesy again before many peoples and nations and tongues and kings, which is what the two witnesses will be doing. So it could be the two witnesses, or it could be in another role, in the last days. So it is, I would say, if I were to guess, not that I want to guess on this, that is Moses, because it goes right into Revelation 11 right after it. So, but I was just going to say that I have that on my original videos, but if somebody were to say, no, that's not possible because of the transfiguration, I'll be like, I respect your opinion, and, I wouldn't push that too hard. Okay. But it's definitely Moses and it's definitely Elijah. There's no confusion about that. Okay. Whether that is John the Revelator is up for, discussion, and ultimately, like, I can't prove it either way. So, and you can't either. Revelation 11, Galapagos, good to see you, man. Galapagos. Okay. I kind of prefer that, pronunciation now that LOP says that. It's kind of funny. Revelation 11. Okay. So now we're on the precipice of the woe number 2. Okay. So they've had all these seals being loosed, okay, and all these different things. One third was being destroyed. God was like chipping away at it, okay, conquering nations and, destroying things and, contaminating the water supply and all that. Now he's setting up for his second woe, okay? So the first woe is past, and then, which is establishing the one world government worldwide, the angel of the bottomless pit, and then now it's his second woe, and it's going to get more and more intense, okay? The first one was deception, okay, and definitely still amount of evil for the repercussions of that event, whatever that was, real or not, doesn't matter for us. But there was some amount of evil, of course, definitely deception. Now there's actual evil coming, okay, a lot of it. So I've gone through Revelation 11 many, many times. I'm not going to read any of this. So this has not happened yet, okay? And anybody teaching that any of this has happened yet is Antichrist, and I'll say it right to your face. And you're completely stupid if you can read Revelation 11 and think that any of this has occurred yet. You'd have to be completely mental. You cannot make up any kind of breakdown or song and dance or to say that this has occurred yet. It's not even close. Okay. You can manipulate some of the chapters prior and make up things. Oh no, this hasn't happened yet, and make up some kind of narrative, but you can never make up a narrative that this has occurred yet. That's why I guard this teaching with my life, literally. And so that's why people who teach anything different than me on this chapter, I know they're totally mental. Okay. God is just using them to just bring confusion and lies. There's no way a single word of Revelation 11 has occurred yet. Okay. First and foremost, it talks about the elect being taken away. Okay. Which no one understands. And there was given me a reed like unto a rod, and the angel stood saying, rise. Okay. And measure the temple of God and the altar and them that worship therein. It's talking about the elect worshiping in an altar. They are the temple. Okay. And so how has that happened yet? They have to be together to do that. Okay. And they have to rise. Okay. But the court, which is without the temple, leave out. Okay. This is the court, the mixed multitude that we read in Revelation 7, and measure it not, for it is given unto the Gentiles, and the holy city shall they tread underfoot. So the elect are taken away, and underneath their feet, which is the earth. Okay. The holy city shall be tread underfoot 40 and 2 months. What's the holy city? That's the elect. Okay. And so it's literally going to be under the feet of the holy city, okay, which eventually will come down, which is New Jerusalem. So these verses are literal, okay? That hasn't happened yet. I don't know how anybody could read Revelation 11 and make some kind of nonsense that that's occurred or something like that, or they're fulfilling it. That's ridiculous. And I'll give power unto my two witnesses. They shall prophesy 1,260 days clothed in sackcloth. So you can wear sackcloth and pretend to be one of these two people. Well, where's your power? And where's your prophesying? And where's your 1,260 days? Okay. These are the two olive trees and the two candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. This is Moses and Elijah. Okay. And if this doesn't happen in the future, then the Bible's not true. Okay. It hasn't happened yet. Because Moses and Elijah are Christ's right and left hand man, so to speak. 2 Kings 3:14, 14 is a righteous number. And Elisha said, as the Lord of hosts liveth, before whom I stand. Surely were it not that I regard the presence of Jehoshaphat, the king of Judah, I would not look toward thee, nor see thee, as the Lord of hosts liveth, before whom I stand. Okay. And so you have to be very righteous to be able to say that, yeah, I'm in the presence of Christ. What is it, just gonna be some riffraff, some demon, some liar? No. Okay. These are the two candlesticks. These are two olive trees and two candlesticks standing before the God of the earth. Okay. You have to be a certain make. Okay. You have to be built differently, so to speak. Okay. So people, get that teaching out of your mind. Anybody teaching that or thinking that, that's stupid. If any of these words have happened yet, the Bible is not true. None of it. The whole book is garbage. Okay. This hasn't happened yet. Okay. And for people to understand, if somebody doesn't know this, then they don't, then God hasn't told them. This is a secret. Okay. Acts 1:10-11. And while they stood steadfastly toward heaven, as he went up, behold, two men stood by them in white apparel, white for righteousness. Okay. Which also said, ye men of Galilee, why stand ye gazing up into heaven? This same Jesus, which is taken out from you into heaven, shall come in like manner as you've seen him go into heaven. So they have to be back on the earth right now. They have to look up and see Christ in the sky, and then they have to see two men there. Okay. And those two men, I was told, are the two witnesses. Okay. You can speculate a little bit, I guess, who they are, but it's two men. So if you ask somebody, hey, you think you're the two witnesses? Well, do this for me then. And if any man will hurt them, fire proceedeth out of their mouth. So they have to be able to say, you're going to die. Okay. And devour their enemies. And if any man will hurt them, he must in this manner be killed. So an individual may try and push them around and say, why aren't you social distancing? Where's your mask? Yada, yada, yada. But if they do that, then they're going to die. And so they have to have tremendous power. Like it reads here, these have power to shut heaven that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. Is God going to give that power to Flat Earth Boxer and End Times Teacher and Tahar and Ken Hovind and Pastor Anderson and these reprobates, Raphael, these dumbos who don't even know what the bottomless pit is and what the hell's going on? Are you kidding me? No, he's not going to do that. Give me a break. If he did, we're all dead. Because those morons will just start, who knows what the hell they'll do. Okay. And so, but if you give that power to Moses and Elijah, they've done it before. Okay. And it's going to be in righteousness because they're administering judgments. Okay. You know, when Christ said, cast the first, those without sin, cast the first stone. Notice how everybody went away. That's us. If you haven't figured that out yet. Okay. For you morons that are on YouTube, that's all of us. Okay. But that's not the case for these two. Because like we read in Acts, and here they're righteous men. Okay. And so they're able to cast the quote unquote stone. And Christ says, go do it. Okay. Because he gives them power to go and do that. So these are the final judgments. Okay. The wrath of God, which they're administering in Revelation 16. Okay. And those are the plagues. Okay. And so it has to be by pure hands. Okay. For anybody out there, wake up. Stop entertaining these liars. Is this God? Does this God sound like he's goofing around? No, it doesn't sound like he's goofing around to me. It's not, it's fun and cute now to just play games and laugh and giggle. But what if you're masquerading around as these two men, but you're not them? What's he going to do to those people? And then the people that go and co-sign them, like Jack Burton and the other dummies that come by my channel, God's going to destroy all of you people. Verse 6, these have power to shut heaven. So ask young Moses and ETT, okay, shut heaven then. These have power to shut heaven that it rain not in the days of their prophecy, and have power over waters to turn them to blood and to smite the earth with all plagues as often as they will. So like, all right, ETT, I'm golfing tomorrow. Can you make the weather nice? Okay, stop the clouds. Let's see if he can do that. The guy barely knows what to eat. Like he doesn't even know what healthy food to eat, much less have power over the clouds and the sun and the water and all that. Give me a break. And when they have finished their testimony, the beast that ascendeth out of the bottomless pit shall make war against them and shall overcome them and kill them. So that's a clue to let us know that has already happened. This is why, the Bible is actually playing out the same narrative. Okay. And so these have to come after that, what we read in Revelation 9:11. So there has to be a one world government in place already. Then these two men have to be on the scene. And we have the one world government because we just read that in Revelation 9:11. And so the individuals can come and, chastise them and give them a hard time, but they won't be able to harm them. Okay, they won't be able to do anything to them and kill them. But this beast will. The governments, they're going to collectively combine to kill them. Okay, why? Because they're tormenting the whole earth. It's not a light thing. It's not just two people preaching and having controversial views. Oh, wow, they're so controversial. No, who cares? Okay, if it were just controversial views, no one would care. They're harming people. They're putting sores on people. They're destroying the wildlife in the waters. They're creating a heat wave and a power outage, and they're destroying the earth. okay, according to what God wants, and they're tormenting his left-hand side, okay? And so these are not like a riffraff or nothing like that. And so this has not been fulfilled yet. And their dead bodies shall lie in the street of the great city, which spiritually is called Sodom and Egypt, where also our Lord was crucified. Okay. And so they're going to be in America. So 2 men have to be prophesying in America for 1,260 days, or the Bible is garbage, hot garbage. Okay. Because then God has turned back and forgot his word. Oops, I forgot. Well, we forget about you then. Okay. Because he did not fulfill what he said. So God would not put this chapter in here for no reason. It's very detailed. Okay. And it's very specific. It's very obvious who they are. And it's even more obvious who they are not. Okay. And then I was told when I was explaining these tiles that this earthquake in 13 is the same one in Revelation 16. Revelation 11:13, in the same hour, there was a great earthquake. That's the same earthquake in Revelation 16. Okay. And the 10th part of the city fell in the earthquake, were slain and men 7,000, and the remnant were affrighted and gave glory to the God of heaven. That's a remnant in Arzareth. They're still there right now, honoring God's laws. Okay. The second woe is past, and behold, the third woe come quickly. And so the third woe is not explicitly described, but it's obvious what's implied. Okay. In Revelation 14. So that's the wrath of God. Okay. And so the second woe is not past yet. It's not World War II or whatever the hell stupid people teach. No, that's ridiculous. Are you kidding me? Does any of this sound like World War II? You dumbos. Give me a break. And the 7th angel sounded, and there were great voices in heaven saying, the kingdoms of this world are become the kingdoms of our Lord. This is a translation in kingdoms. Why is this being described here? Why? Because now everybody on the earth has been taken away that God hates. That God loves. And everybody on the earth God hates. Okay, except the remnant, which he's going to protect. And so now he's going to return and destroy everybody on the earth who's on his left-hand side. And so this is a translation in kingdoms. Okay. And so that's why that's being described here and not after the wrath of God. Okay. Because the rulership's over now. Okay. Because God's taken out everybody. The elect are out. The mixed multitude is out. And now the 2 witnesses are out. So everybody else except the remnant, which he'll protect. And you can read that in 2 Ezra 13. I've gone through it many times. Now there's just fire. He's just burning everything. Okay. Preparing it for the kingdom. So Revelation 11 has not occurred yet. Now, this is what's strange about the Bible. It chapter to chapter, it switches time periods. Okay. You would think 12 would be like the next thing, but 12 actually goes before that. It's prior to Revelation 11. And I've done many lessons on this. I don't want to go through this again, but it's very clear that this Revelation 12 goes through almost the whole narrative. Okay. Right from Christ's sacrifice. And there appeared a great wonder in heaven, a woman clothed with the sun and the moon under her feet, and upon her head a crown of 12 stars. And she, being with child, cried, travailing in birth and pain to be delivered. And there another wonder in heaven, and behold, a great red dragon having 7 heads and 10 horns and 7 crowns upon his head. And so that's talking about the power structure that was there on the time of Christ, and then how in the last days that's resurrected, and reincarnated for the one world government. Okay. Consisting of all the nations. And so we see these things happening in the firmament, which I recommend people watch people like Flat Earth Boxer's videos on that. And then this is symbolic then of Christ being on the scene and then being crucified and then being taken up onto the throne. And she brought forth a man-child who is to rule all nations with a rod of iron. This is Christ. And her child was caught up to God and to his throne. So after he was on the scene, he was killed, and then he was caught up to God on his throne. And then they had the ceremonies that I read earlier. So it's kind of like just the way the Bible is. It's not in order at this point. Okay. Because this has already happened. Revelation 12. And the woman fled into the wilderness, where she had a place prepared for God, and they should feed her 1,260 days, talking about the elect. Okay. And so they're going to be in a metaphoric wilderness. Okay. In majority of them are in America. And so this is the first half of the 7 years of the tribulation. Okay. The 42 months. And then the second half of it is what I just read in Revelation 11. That's the final 7-year period. So this period of 3.5 years, 1,260 days, is the beginning of the tribulation. And then the second half is the great tribulation. And then after that is the wrath of God. Okay. And so this is, this has to end anytime soon. Okay. So we're at the end of this kind of time period, because we know that because of this. And the great dragon was cast out, that old serpent called the devil and Satan, which deceiveth the whole world. He was cast out on the earth, and his angels were cast out with him. And so that's happened already. We know that because we're not deceived anymore. So we have to know now that that's done now because we're not deceived. Okay. And so that was undone by the flat earth, and then that this earth is hell, and then all the many other, teachings that we know now. So there's symbolic language here that gives us, reason to believe that as well. Verse 16, and the earth helped the woman, which again is symbolic of the elect. And the earth opened her mouth and swallowed up the flood, which the dragon cast out of his mouth. So the earth helped the woman, the earth itself. We know because of the physical earth that we live on and the fact that it's hell, that we can't be deceived anymore. So any like spewing out of lies and all that from this dragon, we don't believe it. Because unless somebody teaches that the earth is flat and stationary and that this earth is hell. And there's only like one other person literally that teaches that. And that's End Times teacher. And he believes he's the fulfillment of Revelation 11. It's funny every time I say it. So he's dismissed. And so me personally, I can't be deceived anymore. So that's proof that this is already over. Okay. And so, and the dragon was wroth with the woman and went to make war with the remnant of her seed. Okay. So all the seeds that the elect have planted worldwide, this dragon now is angry, but he goes after the remnant of her seed. Why doesn't he go after her? Because they're taken away. Okay. At the end of that period, okay, of 1260 days. And then begins the Great Tribulation. Okay. And so that's why that language is used, and went to make war with the remnant of her seed, which keep the commandments of God and have the testimony of Jesus. So they're going to give up their life, for that. And they'll be part of the mixed multitude. So now we have Revelation 13. This is a very famous chapter. And again, don't need to go into this, but it shows that same structure that was being raised up in Revelation 12 to be a part of the ecosystem that kills Christ is now being raised up again in the last days. It's the same structure. Okay. And so that's why it says, and I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea, having 7 heads and 10 horns, and upon his horns 10 crowns, and upon the heads the name of blasphemy. So it looks like, quote unquote, underwater, under the earth, there is like a habitation of souls that wait for God's judgment, and then he calls them up. Okay. And we're going to read later, the sea gave up the dead which were in it. And then we get that language here. And I stood upon the sand of the sea and saw a beast rise up out of the sea. So these are all the souls being called up. Okay. God gives them their judgment, and then he puts them in. He says, go do this. Okay. And so this one world power structure here is being called up in the last days to do what is written here. And verse 3, and I saw one of the heads that were wounded to death after this deadly wound was healed, and all the world wandered after the beast. So this is a one world government, a beast system of billions of souls, okay, that are taken up out of this bottomless pit, okay? And so we're in that final judgment for that group, okay, to be tagged, to be, isolated, and identified. And they're not making a decision or anything. They're not deciding. They were already there on God's left-hand side, and God's just showing it to people. Okay. And so visually with swords, and then other things, and then with the mark of the beast. And so they're not making a decision. Okay. They're just actors. So they worshiped the dragon and gave power to the beast, and they worshiped the beast who is like unto the beast, who is able to make war with him. So it's a powerful structure in the last days worldwide. Okay. And then you go down, and then we read the famous verses, number 666, okay, which is the consolidation summary of all the different governments, corporations, school system, medical system, religious system, entertainment system, space system, everything. So it's everything. It's pretty much everything. Okay. So Revelation 13 is, a buildup, and stamped and certified and obvious in the last days. So that's happening in our generation now. Okay. And so, that's, we're living that out, no one would argue that, really, any religious person at this point who's like somewhat into the Bible. So Revelation 13 is happening now. Okay. Literally right now, every day. So I can't mirror enough videos to prove that. And everybody, the people that come by my channel know that. So that's not anything new. So I don't want to not go through it, but I think everybody kind of knows. There's a one world government in place, and that's what it's describing. and it's resurrected from an ancient power structure. Revelation 14. Okay, so now we're on the summary chapter again. So notice we read 6 chapters. 7 was like an intermission, went through the sequence with the elect. Then we had 6 more chapters of different judgments. And then now we have an intermission, Revelation 14. Okay, it goes through the sequence again. And I looked, and lo and behold, a lamb stood on Mount Zion, and with him 144,000, having the Father's name written in their foreheads. Okay, and so they're taken up already. Okay. Yeah, Eric, I'll answer that. We'll deal with that after I'm done this kind of scan. But yeah, I agree with what Fear of the Lord's saying, but I'll go over it again, and we'll read that. Actually, sorry, I can answer that now, just because I went through the verse. I mean, for Eric to not know, that, how do you not know, I guess, Eric, at this point, that there's the mark of the beast? Have you ever read that passage that I can read right now? Revelation 13:15, and he had power to give life unto the image of the beast, that the image of the beast should both speak and cause that as many that would not worship the image of the beast should be killed. And he causeth all, both small and great, rich and poor, free and bond, to receive a mark in their right hand and in their foreheads. And so this is talking about a lot of people. So we're going to read in Revelation 14 what God's going to do to these people. And so you don't think that he hates them? He's going to burn them with fire. Okay. So what are you talking about? I don't know. You're like, are you kidding me? You can be new to my channel, which is totally fine, but are you new to the Bible? Okay. Like, how do you not know that there's a prophecy called the mark of the beast? Okay, where God identifies his left-hand side, which is what it is, and then he puts sores on them and he burns them with fire. You don't think that God hates those people? Are you kidding me? Are you joking, man? What on earth? Eric Morrison, EM 33. Okay. And so, I mean, how can people play dumb this late in the game? That's wild to me. But they're clearly demonstrating the right. But yeah, exactly. What Fear of the Lord says, correct. Revelation 14. Okay, so now we have the elect being taken away. Okay, and they have the Father's name written in their foreheads. And they sung, as it were, a new song before the throne, before Christ. So they're in the presence of Christ, and before the 4 beasts and the elders. And so they're up in the spirit realm, okay, in the altar, and them that worship therein. These are they which were not defiled with women, for they are virgins. These are they which follow the Lamb whithersoever he goeth. So if Christ is in the sky, he follows them. They follow him. Okay, in the sky. Salvation. Being the first fruits unto God and to the Lamb. All right, Eric, just hold your questions till the end, but that's stupid, man. That's a ridiculous response. He's burning them with fire, man. And what difference does it make whether he hates their ways or he hates them? They're destroyed now, body and soul. So who cares? Okay, whatever. Fine, he hates their works. Okay, but he incinerated them, which we're about to read right here. So just relax, man. Just listen. Okay, listen and learn. And let me get my understanding out, and then you can ask your questions. Verse 5, and in their mouth was found no guile, for they are without fault before the throne of God. Okay, so now this is salvation for the elect. Now what happens after that? And I saw another angel fly in the midst of heaven, having the everlasting gospel, to preach to them that dwell on the earth, and to every nation and kindred and tongue and people. And they're going to be preaching the gospel like this, and saying with a loud voice, fear God and give glory to him, for the hour of his judgment is come, and to worship him that made heaven and the earth and the sea and the fountains of water. This is the hour of temptation, the hour of judgment, which the elect are exempt from. Notice how the Bible's saying the exact same thing for over and over again. So they're going to be preaching the gospel, during that time. And this is the time of the 2 witnesses, because when the elect are taken away, the 2 witnesses are brought here, according to Acts 1:10-11. So they're going to be the ones preaching the gospel. It's going to be in the sky. Okay. It's not by man. They're not able to, because everybody on earth except the elect are liars or actors. Now, so after the gospel is preached, then America gets judged and destroyed. That's what we read here. And there followed another angel saying, Babylon is fallen, the great city, because she made all nations drink of the wine of the wrath of her fornication. And the 3rd angel followed them, saying with a loud voice, if any man worship the beast in his image and receive his mark in his forehead and in his hand, the same shall drink of the wine of the wrath of God, which is poured out without mixture into the cup of his indignation, which is a righteous anger. So he's definitely angry. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, the presence of the Lamb. So after America is destroyed, Christ returns with his elect. Okay, 1 Thessalonians 3:13, and then they have this battle in the Middle East, which is not really a battle. He's just burning up everything, just killing everybody, except a remnant. 1 Thessalonians 3:13, to the end he may establish your hearts unblameable in holiness before God, even our Father, at the coming of our Lord Jesus Christ with all of his saints. And so that's what's being described here in Revelation 14. And he shall be tormented with fire and brimstone in the presence of the holy angels, in the presence of the Lamb. Okay. And verse 12, here is the patience of the saints. Here are they that keep the commandments of God in the faith of Jesus. That's referencing, he's going to be with the saints. And I looked, and behold, a white cloud, and upon the cloud one sat like unto a son of man, having on his head a golden crown, a bow, an arch, okay, above his head. He's in a special UFO, okay, and in his hand a sharp sickle. And another angel came out of the temple, saying with a loud voice to him that sat on the cloud, thrust in thy sickle and reap, for the time is come for thee to reap, for the harvest of the earth is ripe. The angel came out of the temple. This proves that he's with his elect, because that temple is the elect. Okay, that's why the reference in verse 12. Verse 16, and he sat on the cloud, thrusting the sickle on the earth, and the earth was reaped. And another angel came out of the temple, okay, the elect, which is in heaven, he also having a sharp sickle. And another angel came up from the altar. Notice how it says altar now, and them that worship therein, okay, which had power over fire, and cried out with a loud cry to him that had the sharp sickle, saying, thrust in thy sharp sickle and gather the clusters of the vine of the earth, for her grapes are fully ripe. And the angel thrust in the sickle in the earth and gathered the vine of the earth and cast into the great winepress of the wrath of God. Okay, so this is God just killing everybody in the Middle East, beginning in the Middle East. And there's just blood everywhere, according to verse 20. So I don't know how anybody could read that and think God doesn't hate. Are you kidding me? Give me a break. And the winepress was trodden without the city, and blood came out of the winepress, even to the horse's bridle, by the space of 1,600 furlongs. There's blood everywhere, which is a massacre. So that's that. Okay, so now this is why it's again, you have to understand the tiles. Okay, the tapestry, the quilt that God's weaving here. Revelation 15 switches time periods. Okay, so 14 was a summary chapter. Okay, and so now Revelation 15 goes back in time, and it says, and I saw another angel in heaven, great and marvelous, 7 angels having the 7 last plagues. Okay, and then we read at the end of this chapter, actually it says right here, for in them is filled up the wrath of God. Okay, so in Revelation 15, it's now letting us know that this is a preparation for the wrath of God. Okay, and then that wrath is described in Revelation 16 as plagues. Okay, and I read those. So, this is about to happen, I believe very, very soon. And again, lifting of the mask mandate could be preparation for this, like I was hypothesizing earlier, because the very first plague involves the mark of the beast. So this cannot happen until the mark of the beast is out. So again, I went through that earlier, but this is now God tormenting the earth after the elect are taken away. For I heard another great voice out of the temple saying, out of the temple. So that's talking about, the elect. And so, they're already taken away. And so it's possible, very likely, I would say, that the elect are part of preaching the gospel, because they're taken away already. They're the angels that are preaching the gospel, and then they're the angels that are involved in this too. So, because that language, the temple, refers to them. But again, that's not necessary to necessarily know that, I guess. But ultimately, they're righteous entities that are doing this. Okay, in Revelation 16. So I won't go through that again, but that's. I believe we're on the precipice of that right now. Revelation 16 has not occurred yet, not a single word of it, just like Revelation 11 has not occurred yet. And so that's that. Now the nice thing I would say about Revelation is that it starts becoming a little bit more sequential. So after Revelation 16 is the wrath of God, okay, the plagues, and then Revelation 17 and 18 describe America, or Mystery Babylon. And so after the 1260-day period of the 2 witnesses, okay, they're taken away after the system kills them. And then God puts it in the hearts of the other nations to burn America. So after 16 comes 17 and 18. Okay. And so, that's why it literally says, and there came one of the 7 angels, which had the 7 vials, and talked with me, saying unto me, so it's like sequential. It's like one of those 7 angels said, okay, here, let's talk about this next thing. Saying unto me, come hither, I'll show unto thee the judgment of the great whore that sitteth upon many waters. So it describes the whore, and then it talks about burning it. Okay. And so this is clearly talking about America. And so For God hath put in, I'll read verse 16, and the 10 horns which thou sawest upon the beast, these shall hate the whore, and shall make her desolate and naked, and shall eat her flesh and burn her with fire. For God has put in their hearts to fulfill his will, and to agree and to give their kingdom unto the beast until the words of God shall be fulfilled. And so God's burning this place. So that's Revelation 17, 18. Okay, happens right after Revelation 16, which is a sister chapter of Revelation 11. So 11 and 16 are, think of those as one. When you read 11 and 16, it's the same thing. Okay, they go in parallel perfectly, and they end with a great earthquake, and hail. And so then after that, you have 16 and 17. Or sorry, then you have 17 and 18. And then we'll read 19 here. And after these things, okay, I heard a great voice of much people in heaven saying, Hallelujah, salvation and glory and honor and power unto our God. For true and righteous are his judgments, for he hath judged the great whore, which did corrupt the earth with her fornication, and avenged the blood of the servants at her hand. And so they're seeing America being burned. Bam. Okay. And so, this now this describes the wrath of God when Christ returns with the saints. Okay. And so, that's what the Bible teaches. At this point, we're just waiting to see whether it happens or not. And so, you can go on and read the rest of Revelation 19 on your own. But right after America is destroyed, Christ is going to reappear in the Middle East with his saints, like I read in 1 Thessalonians 3:13, for this 30-day battle in the Middle East. And I know it's 30 days because of this verse. Zechariah 11:8, 3 shepherds also I cut off in 1 month, and my soul loathed them, and their soul abhorred me. And so that 3 shepherds is the precept for that is in Revelation 16 with the 3 frogs. Okay, Revelation 16:13, and I saw 3 unclean spirits like frogs come out of the mouth of the dragon, out of the mouth of the beast, and out of the mouth of the false prophet. And so all those structures, the dragon, the beast system, and the mouth of the false prophet, all of them are the 3 unclean spirits. Okay. And those are the 3 shepherds over the earth. The earth is given into the hand of the wicked. It's given over to a dragon, a beast, and a false prophet. So all of them he's just destroying, burning it. Okay. That's his left-hand side. And so that's the precept for, the duration of the wrath. Okay. The Armageddon. It's fairly quick. That's why the Bible says he's going to make a speedy riddance of all them that dwell in the land. In Zephaniah 1:18. It's pretty quick, so, and thank goodness, because who cares? Just get rid of them. There's a bunch of liars and actors and dummies. Zephaniah 1:18, neither their silver nor their gold shall be able to deliver them in the day of the Lord's wrath, but the whole land shall be devoured by the fire of his jealousy. For he shall make even a speedy riddance of all them that dwell in the land. That's the 30-day period in the book of Daniel. Talks about 1335. Okay, 1290 and 1335. So you got 1260 with the 2 witnesses. You got 30, what I just read. You got 45 days for the miracles and the remnant. And that's in 2nd Ezra. So take a look at that. So Revelation 19 again goes into this battle in Armageddon. So now we go into Revelation 20. Okay. And it talks again about this battle in the Middle East, talking about being cast in the lake of fire. And so this is a good chapter because it shows like that all the souls are being judged. Okay, if you read at the end of Revelation 20, and I saw the dead, small and great, stand before God, and the books were open, and another book were open, which is the book of life, and the dead were judged according unto the things which are written in the books, so all their evil works, according to their works. And the sea gave up the dead which were in it. That's that habitation that we talk about, the bottomless pit. And in 2nd Ezra 7, Revelation 9, and all the the place of rest that people talk about in the Bible. After you're out of the body, the sea gave up the dead which are in it, and death and hell delivered up the dead which are in them. So the sea gave up the dead has to be a different place than death and hell. Death is the body, and hell is the earth. Okay, delivered up the dead which were in them, and they were judged every man according to works. And death and hell were cast into a lake of fire. Okay, so the fire in the last days is going to be the second death. Okay, and that's permanent, body and soul. So Death is the body, all of God's left-hand side. Hell is the earth, and then they're going to be cast into fire. Okay, either the fire from the other nations burning America, or the fire of in the Middle East, the final battle. So God's going to then energize the entire earth with his left-hand side, and he's going to judge all of them. Okay, and then they're all poof, disappeared. Okay, they all are destroyed, according to Matthew 10:28. So that's what God's doing. He's stirring all this up. He's giving a place for all these spirits to be housed in a body somewhere on earth to burn them. Matthew 10:28, and fear not them which kill the body, but are not able to kill the soul, but rather fear him which is the Most High, which is able to destroy both soul and body in hell, which is this realm. Okay, this physical earth realm. And so that's what he's doing. He's destroying both soul and body here in Revelation 20. Okay. And the confusing thing, I would say, not really confusing because we understand, but just be aware the 1,000 years in Revelation 20 verse 6 and Revelation 20 verse 7 are two different things. And so you have to have that understanding. Revelation 20 verse 6, blessed and holy is he that hath part in the first resurrection. On such the second death has no power. This is the elect, for they shall be priests of God and of Christ and shall reign with him 1,000 years. That's the millennial reign, okay, on earth. Verse 7, and when the 1,000 years are expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. That's in the past. Okay, so people get those confused. They think, oh no, Christ is going to reign for 1,000 years, and then there's going to be this battle of Gog and Magog. So that's like for people who don't have understanding. So there's no way you're going to elect are going to rule with Christ for 1,000 years and then be like, hey, you know what? 1,000 years kind of boring. Let's go and have a fight now and just burn everybody. That doesn't make sense. Okay, that 1,000-year reign with Christ is the kingdom on earth. Okay, where the earth is going to be run with righteousness. Okay. And there's no more fighting or, burning people and all that kind of stuff. So that's why the Bible is confusing on purpose, because people are going to read that and just assume that it's like sequential, but it's not in this case. And so at verse 7, and when the 1,000 years were expired, Satan shall be loosed out of his prison. That's happened already. Okay. According to Revelation 9:11, the angel of the bottomless pit. Okay. And they're going to go out to deceive the nations, which we read in Revelation 12. Okay. And so they're all gathering everybody together for this battle in the Middle East. Okay. That's their ultimate goal, is to meet God and then fight against him and see who wins. Okay. And then they lose miserably. Okay. Like it says here, and fire came down from God out of heaven and devoured them. So it's just like, it's a speedy riddance. It's just a joke. Get rid of it. Get rid of them. So that's the trick. Okay. In Revelation 20, just be aware of that. So now we have the summary chapter. Okay, remember we have 6 chapters gone by, and now we're at the summary. 6, 7 summary, 6 more, 14 is the summary, 6 more, 21 is the summary. In this case, it goes in the reverse order. I don't know why that happens, but God's allowed to do whatever he wants. But it's the same sequence. It just starts with the kingdom. So, verse 21, and I saw a new heaven and a new earth, for the new first heaven and first earth were passed away, and there was no more sea. And I, John, saw the holy city, New Jerusalem, coming down from God out of heaven. This is the elect, prepared as a bride adorned for her husband. Okay. And so we know that it's them. And so, it goes into detail about that. But the fearful, unbelieving, abominable murderers and all that, they're already taken care of. So they're already dead. So they're not a part of any of this. Okay. So again, more description of the kingdom. Having the glory of God, her light was unto a stone most precious, even like jasper stone, clear as crystal and all that. 12 foundations, and in them were the names of the 12 apostles. And so they're going to be the gates, 12 by 12,000. Goes in to describe them. The 12 gates were 12 pearls. Every several gates was of 1 pearl and all that. And there I saw no temple therein, for the Lord God Almighty and the Lamb are the temple of it. And so God's Spirit is now dwelling amongst man. Okay. And it's represented in his elect. Okay. Who are the temple. And then now we go to the city, no need for a sun. The nations, them which are saved, walk in the light of the kings of the earth, do bring their glory unto it. And the gates of it shall not be shut at all, and there shall be no night there. And so the reason it goes in the other order is if you read 27, it talks about them defileth or worketh abominations. Okay. which is God's left-hand side, or maketh alive, but they are written in the Lamb's book of life. So it talks about evil. Then in a couple verses up, it talks about in 24 for 44, God's elect talks about salvation. And then it talks about the kingdom. So it's a little bit coded, but just know that it's going in the reverse order. It's talking about the kingdom, salvation, and then evil. But if you read it from the bottom up, it's evil, salvation, and then the kingdom. In the other ones, it said salvation, and then it would talk about plagues or the wrath, and then it would talk about a battle, and then it would talk about the kingdom. And I'm talking about Revelation 7 and 14. So for whatever reason, God wanted to do it in a reverse order here in Revelation 21. So, but it's this is the summary chapter. Okay. So that's that. And then Revelation 22 is goes into the kingdom, even more detail. So I've done many lessons on that. So that's a book of Revelation. Okay. And that's it. So I made a video earlier, a bit tongue in cheek, but kind of serious. Like Revelation is an IQ test. Okay. The few people that come by here, they'll pass. Okay. You need to know certain concepts, and then you need to know, the 1,000 years are different, in that one chapter, and you need to know a few things, and then it'll make sense, and then again, I referenced that video below. It's the same God, in Revelation as the God in Genesis. So watch that video first, just to get confirmation that it's the same God who's wrapping the story up. And then, those structure, the 666 and 777, God has a beautiful symmetry. Okay. When he produces his works. Okay. And, he deals with 12 by 12,000. He likes certain numbers. He likes 14. He likes 17. He likes 12 for his disciples. He likes certain numbers. Okay. He doesn't like 666 and that kind of thing. So all these structures and patterns are ways to know this God. Okay. And hopefully my channel has made that at least a bit more obvious, that's the case. So, that's amazing, to me. Just every time I go through it, either now or just on my own, like you'll see more and more structure, even though the world, we don't see any structure, we just see chaos. But when you go to God's word, you see structure, and you see a very, very righteous God who has things in order, and he's desiring for that order to be here on earth. Okay. May your will be done on earth as it is in heaven. Okay. And so the order and the structure that's happening in the heavens, we want that order and structure here on earth. That's what we read in Revelation 11 with the translation and kingdom. So that's what we're longing for. Okay. All of creation's longing for that. So that's the deal. If anybody has questions, they can, leave it in the chat, or, if you're not a troll and trying to do anything crazy, you can join, no pressure if you don't want to, but just if you want to ask them more directly, or if it's not easy to ask in the chat, whatever you want to do. But I'll just scan the chat, and then, I'll leave it at that. Let's see what my poll is up to now. Let's see what other people have said. Because I'm a man for the people, man. I just want to do what the people ask. So let's take a look. Okay. 28 votes. Okay. Calling people retarded is now 29%. And don't stream anymore is 29%. Searching a keyword. Okay. It's pretty much the same. So, it is what it is. Didn't call anybody retarded, I don't think, today. So I did pretty good. Yeah, it's a good video, LOP. The only thing that's changed from that is what the mark of the beast is. But the understanding and all that is exactly what I just did here. So, pretty much what you got here was a good summary of that, and then so I did the long one, which is like an hour and a half. And then I did a shorter one, like kind of like a bit, less detailed than this, but then I did a minute long one if you just want a quick understanding. And then once you take that template to the Bible, the whole Bible makes sense, because that sequence is being reaffirmed everywhere. And I've proven that on my backup channel and here. So, Yeah, Orange OG 33, 100% easing of restrictions is a total bluff. I totally agree. It's just, it's just a way to like pulsate the system, give people a break, and then push it more. We are in the calm before the storm. It's going to get real bad very soon. I agree. And it's the days of Noah. It's like we're being lulled into like a form of complacency that, we know things are going to get really, really bad. And I think even the average person knows that as well. Rob, good to see you, man. Welcome. LOP, I remember the UFO scene from The Life of Brian. It's been ages since I've seen that movie. I might watch that, if it has like end time symbolism. Galapagos, good to see you, buddy. DJ Spin, what's up, man? He even commands us to love our neighbor. Yeah, I would just watch the stream that I did earlier on that. I think I talked about that. The Bible is written for the Israelites, okay, interacting with other Israelites. And so, yes, their neighbor, their literal neighbor, they're supposed to love their neighbor, which are other Israelites, because they keep God's laws, at least to some degree. And if Israelites are around other non-Israelites, they have to serve them, okay? Because imagine the Israelites are the law, okay, in practice, and Christ is the supreme example. So if you have the law, you can't put lawless people above the law. Then the world will be lawless, which is what we have now. So if you're a person of the law, the Israelites, you have to put lawless people beneath you, which is what everything that we just read. They have to serve you and report to you. And so they have to be your quote unquote slave or your servant. And so if they refuse to do that, then you have to leave. You have to do this. Bye. Okay. Which is the group that we read in 2nd Ezra. The multitude that gathered together in peace. Okay. They left their captivity because their leaders will, quote unquote, leaders will not allow them to keep God's statutes. So they left, deuces. Okay. So the true Israelites, the real ones, not the ones that acquiesce and go along with the beast system, but they ask for separation from their neighbor if they're not an Israelite and they're not about the law and strictly. Okay. So there's no notion of quote unquote loving them. You avoid them, get away from them. We're asking to be taken to another dimension. Okay. That's how far away we want to be away from these people. So that's the true spirit of the Israelites. So don't get that confused when the Bible is written for the Israelites talking amongst other Israelites. Okay. It's not meant for Christians or definitely not atheists. Okay. Or everyday average Babylonian. The Bible is not written for them. They won't understand it. What I just went through is like basic for us. And I don't say that to be rude to God, but it's plain language for us. For other people, they'll be like IDL will be like, you just read out of a comic book. Okay. That's not a comic book, this book for us. Okay. So the book's not meant for those people. We're not supposed to love or hate them or whatever. We're supposed to avoid them. Okay. The Bible says, come out of her, my people. Don't be partakers of her sins. So we love them by getting away from them. Okay. Then they'll maybe get the hint like, hey, why are those people leaving? Like, why don't they want to be here around us? Because you're disgusting. Okay. And so they'll get the hint. Okay. After the elect are taken away, after the mixed multitude are taken away, they'll be like, oh, they didn't really want to be here. No, we don't. Okay. Not at all. And so that's our form of quote unquote loving our neighbor by getting the hell away from them. It even says, love your enemies, do good on them that hate you. Maybe you should think about the world's whatever. Yeah, well, just read the Bible, dude. Eric, EM33, Eric Morrison. Read the Bible, man. So I went through Revelation. You're going to get that same narrative everywhere. You're going to get a God who's angry because he sees evil, and he sees that evil corrupting his people that he deems precious. Okay. And then they have the nerve to kill him once, which is one thing. And they have the nerve to try and kill him again when he returns. Okay. And then kill his two witnesses, which are his two precious prophets. So that's a vile, disgusting earth. Okay. And so we just have to align ourselves with God. Okay. Because I take his side, I got nothing to lose and everything to gain. So, if it's not true, it's not true. We had a false hope, but if it is, then, we're on the right team because he's going to destroy a lot of people. And we look forward to that. So appreciate everybody coming by, and if you have questions, you can email me or whatever. Just I kind of did that poll a little bit tongue in cheek, but I appreciate Creation Bear giving me that idea, planting that seed, because I may not have done this live stream otherwise. But just for me personally, it was good to go through it, at a bird's eye view, just to get a greater appreciation for one that I would say I already have, and the few people that come by here, of the structure of the Bible, how elegant it is. Elegant is a term that's used in mathematics when you have a solution that just like fits perfect. You're like, wow, man, that's like, it's almost like it was meant to be there. It's the same with the Bible. It's a very elegant structure. The 66 books, the Apocrypha, when you add it in, the 7 days of creation mirroring the 7 plagues in Revelation 16, it's the same God. Okay. And then, we're anxious for him to reveal himself through his son. Hope everyone's doing well.